Hi, I'm just sharing a few thoughts on people with mental health problems getting into positions of power, and I think it's a really serious situation that we're in at the moment, especially with, you know, the allegedly greatest nation on earth being led by a guy who's got serious mental health problems. He's a pathological liar, he's a narcissist, he's a sex offender, he hangs around with paedophiles, he's also lawfully suspected of financial crimes as well. I mean, basically the guy is crazy and he's president. Now, people like myself were horrified that this guy had managed to become president, and I've got a little clip here which I think this is a perfect parody of the Trump presidency. You know, springtime for Hitler, and I'll leave you the link to it, and I ask you to please watch it, you know, because this is President Trump, this is the Trump presidency. This whole clip absolutely parodies the Trump presidency. The audience's initial reaction to it of shock and horror, and oh, it's in such bad taste, and then oh, but it's funny, let's all have a laugh at him. Oh yeah, let's watch the show, you know. Oh, what's he done today? Ha 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 ha. Except, you know, he's almost took America to, well, really the whole world, to the brink of World War III, because let's face it, Europe's expected to follow in line with America. Whatever they're doing, their disgusting so-called wars in the Middle East, which no nation in the Middle East had actually attacked America. They were a handful of terrorists, did 9/11. We still don't know who they were. We still strongly suspect that government intelligence itself was behind it. So, you know, who's to say what has been governing America, except when we look at the Jeffrey Epstein case, and we're told by no less than Acosta himself, the Labour Secretary now, that he was an intelligence asset, that Epstein was an intelligence asset. So he was gaining intelligence for who? For who? The CIA? No, we strongly suspect Mossad. Mossad, who controls every aspect of American politics through the Israel lobby and various other nefarious activities that they participate in on the ground, in terms of establishing so-called grassroots networks within universities and in society in general, in order to engineer the kind of consciousness, that ethos that they would like America to follow, which is basically just go and level the Middle East for us, please, America, so we can get on with our, help us do it, so we can get on with our Greater Israel project. And we'd like you to level Iran. And don't forget, Israel is a country that has, we very strongly suspect, with evidence, that Israel has a stash of nuclear weapons that it has never signed any treaties for. So we're talking about an illegal supply of nuclear weapons, an illegal supply of WMDs. Who among American or the UN forces have gone to inspect Israel to see if they do have WMDs? This is really what needs to happen, never mind tearing up treaties with Iran and actually pushing Iran to now enrich the uranium. We had a peace treaty with Iran. Iran was abiding by it. America, under this mad, crazy president, Heil myself, okay, And we know that he has, well, he's incited violence just by the fact that he is president. He's incited violence from his followers, many of whom are openly Nazis. You know, we've all seen them with the swastikas and the torches saying Jews shall not replace us, but they all support Trump, who is a Zionist, because, as I've repeatedly said, the people that are the most danger to Jews, okay, the people who are most anti-Semitic in this world are actually the Zionists themselves. And that's the fact. We know it for a fact because there we have the Zionist President Trump, and crimes against Jews have risen exponentially since he's been president. Attacks against synagogues, against even a Jew cemetery, you know, all of these things. And then we've got the attacks against Muslims and the attacks against black people, and so it goes on. And, you know, Trump himself is an attack against every average USA citizen and actually every global citizen. Now, here in Britain, we've got the same madness that has been taken place now, taken a platform through Brexit. We have this totally crazy woman, Anne Widdecombe, with this equally disgusting, crazy guy, Nigel Farage, and these Brexit MEPs. And, you know, they all stood up and turned their back when the EU anthem was being played in Parliament, apparently. And they've even hijacked, appropriated the black people's action in America, you know, Black Lives Matter, that the sports people have been kneeling when the American anthem is played. Instead of standing, they've been kneeling as a protest. You see, as a protest, because of what's happening to black people in America. They're still suffering the same evil prejudices. The amount of people, black people, get shot and killed by police at the drop of a hat is absolutely, I mean, it's off the scale. You're talking children getting shot dead in a park for playing with a plastic BB gun, okay? These are the kind of things that's happening in America. And so she comes along, these come along, and start comparing themselves. She's actually here comparing herself and actually Britain to the slaves, the Afro-American slaves of America. She actually states it in this thing, that she actually compares herself and that Britain to the slaves of Afro-America, and how we're liberating ourselves from the shackles of slavery. What on earth is she talking about? I mean, she does belong in a psychiatric unit. There's something really seriously wrong with her. I mean, first of all, how dare these right-wing fascists, and let's call them for what they are, fascists, okay? How dare they hijack the actions of people who have truly been oppressed by slavery, who to this very day are still suffering the judgments and the oppression of that psychology that is embodied in President Trump and his followers, okay? I mean, what kind of mad... She's a privileged white woman. She's never been oppressed in her life. You know, he feels oppressed because he's no longer legitimately allowed to go around tearing foxes apart with hounds. He feels oppressed because, you know, he might have to witness a woman breastfeeding. Apparently they should sit in a corner because he agrees that they're offensive. Breastfeeding women are offensive, but fox hunting, you know, that evil alleged sport that, you know, you get these hunts on horseback with all the hounds. They'd be galloping through farmers' fields, trespassing really, but no, they're allowed to do it because it's the hunt. And it's like, no. Those days are over, and they're feeling oppressed. They're feeling oppressed because they've got to live like human beings, because they've got to live in a democracy. But no. Democracy, apparently, is over. It's it's over. There is no democracy. You know, Brexit was a total scam, a total con, packs of lies, overspending, you name it, all the rules were broke. That referendum was rigged. Let's face it. Nobody wants this Brexit anymore. Now people know the truth. The amount of people that want Brexit are minimal. Because anybody with even half a brain understands that, look, this is just a nightmare. And we are facing over 1 million jobs going. You know, we're talking about an extra, on top of the already struggling economy, an extra 1 million people. Their lives, literally their lives are at risk here, because we've witnessed that austerity has already murdered 120,000 British people in a decade. So how many more is Brexit going to murder with increased austerity? And the murdering people now with this universal credit, leaving people for months with no money. That is outrageous. It is an attack. We're talking about an economic attack. Now, this crazy guy Boris Johnson, really, he is a double of Trump. He is narcissistic. He tells packs of lies. He's a pathological liar. We know that. He's involved in illegal drugs and all kinds of nefarious activities. And how dare anybody even think for a moment to suggest that he should enter number 10. And already, before he even gets in there, he's saying, I will shut down the government and force the country to swallow a no-deal Brexit if I have to. And the thing is that why? Why is the EU refusing the deal that the government's offering? Because they want to have the cake and eat it, you see. They want to have all the benefits of the EU, but they do not want to commit to any of the rights and legislations that are written by the EU. And they do include ending the tax break loopholes for big corporations. This is what Brexit is about. People need to understand it's not about sovereignty. It is not at all going to end immigration. Believe you me, it is not. They've already set the legislation. I've shared it. How many times do I need to explain to people that every corporation is free to bring in as many immigrants as they like from anywhere in the world? To deny jobs to British people, corporations that are coming to Britain are not required to employ British people. Okay? They can, and there are global law firms established to bring in as many people as they need from abroad. So people need to understand this. We're talking about not impoverished immigrants working at the very bottom of society on building sites and sweeping up. We're talking about professionals, professional jobs that will not be going to British people. We're talking about an impoverishment of the native Britain and a marginalisation of the native British people of whatever ethnicity. Because let's face it, if you're born in this country, this is your native country. So, you know, we've got this already, and then the MPs are saying, well, you know, we'll have a sit-in. Well, why weren't they having a sit-in when tens of thousands of people were being driven to suicide through austerity, through economic terrorism? Why hasn't there been a sit-in over what's been going on with this universal credit? But, you know, this is why they can't get the deal, because the EU will insist that, no, you do have to stick with these banking regulations now, because we can't allow another banking collapse, you see. We have to stop. Sorry, if you're a corporation earning money within the EU, okay, then you're going to have to put some taxes. You're going to have to pay something in, because all the people who are working for you are paying their taxes, and you're going to have to pay your taxes, because you're not going to use the EU like some kind of cash machine, a free cash machine where you just draw cash out, suck it out of the EU, and then go and dump it in these offshore accounts. To do what with? To do what? And then at some point you're all going to be, these bankers and financiers are going to be demanding a bail-in, which is even different from a bailout, because a bail-in is basically just stealing the money out of everybody's accounts within the banks. And even they've given in Britain legislation to building societies to have a bail-in. So imagine what that amounts to. Will the building society be writing to people to let them know that, oh, by the way, we now own 50% of your house because we're having a bail-in? And what will people be able to do about it if we've had this hard Brexit and actually we've lost even our human rights, and actually we have no rights all of a sudden? All of a sudden we're back to Victorian Britain. 2 world wars never happened. You see, we are facing a very, very serious situation now, because what the Tories have got on the table for us is food, you know, unsafe, unhealthy food from America that we're going to be paying for 4 or 5 times more than we're paying now. Again, the same, exactly the same for medicines, okay? And in return, allowing American corporations to run our NHS. That's what's on the table for us. Plus losing how many more jobs? We've already lost 300,000 jobs already through Brexit. Okay, already 300,000 people are now unemployed or working on a 0-hour contract, you know, a much lower wage, or struggling on benefits, probably queuing up outside food banks because it takes so long to get any benefits, unemployment benefit now. So we've already got 300,000 people who are unemployed directly through Brexit. How many businesses have gone bankrupt directly through Brexit, and how many more are going to happen after Brexit? You know, that's what's on the table for us. Okay, the average British citizen. Skyrocketing prices for food, which have already doubled. Food prices have already doubled over the last couple of years, okay, if not quadrupled in some cases. So that's what's on the table for us. What they get out of Brexit, the bankers, the financiers that are the biggest Tory party supporters, what they get to keep their tax havens, they get to keep their tax breaks, they get to continue with the lax regulations, basically no regulations. They are allowed to continue committing all the crimes that led to the banking collapse in the first place, that has led to austerity, and that has murdered 120,000 British people have had to die precisely because we've been ruled by a set of criminals. And they are criminals because they lack empathy. And empathy is an important asset of intelligence. And that's what this world needs to understand. That's why the world is in such a bad way, because empathy is not, and compassion are not considered components of intelligence, when actually compassion is the cornerstone of intelligence. We should never, ever put anybody in power who lacks compassion. That is a dangerous thing to do. It's a dangerous thing to do. Now, the World Mental Health knows that Trump is crazy. He's got serious mental health issues. Now, we need to take steps to make sure that this never happens ever again. Never again can any country, any democracy legitimately permit somebody to even stand for president or prime minister who, like, for example, in Trump's case, has admitted, even before he becomes president, he's admitted that he commits sexual offences against women. Now, it doesn't matter how many people want to vote for him, okay? If your society's that bad, it's full of men who want to rape women and grab them by the pussy, okay, then there's something seriously wrong with your society. And maybe it's because you've been led by mad people. People who lack compassion, who lack empathy. Males who lack empathy for women, for example. He hangs around with paedophiles. We are talking a very serious situation here, where it does look, because we've had from Mossad, we've had from Acosta now, that Epstein was an intelligence asset. Okay, so if Epstein is an intelligence asset, then what kind of intelligence is he gathering? What kind of people have been put into power? And precisely because we know that, because they know that they can blackmail that person, because they've got the photographs, they've got the videos. How you know? So again, this criminality and the madness that goes with it, the sadism that goes with it, that is what is ruling our world right now. And, you know, I am very alarmed when I look at Trump's presidency and I see really he's just mirroring what Netanyahu does. You know, President Trump's attitude toward the people of South America is no different to Netanyahu's attitude to the people of Palestine. No different. There's no difference between them. Except in America, you know, the people are there rising up against this level of cruelty that's even been shown to the children of South America, coming to America for refuge from the turmoil, the social and political turmoil that is happening in South America, precisely because North America is funding all of that and instigating it. Look what they're doing to Venezuela, because Venezuela has legitimately democratically elected a president that is standing up to the corporations and saying, no, the people are going to benefit from these resources. You're not going to come in and steal our resources and leave the people living in shanty towns with no education and no healthcare while you all get rich and funnel all the money off to you offshore tax havens. And that's exactly what is happening in Britain. That is what they are doing in Britain. That's why we've got Brexit, because the corporations, the global corporations, are saying, no, 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 we need to end this EU. They're getting too powerful. They're getting too righteous. They're getting too righteous. And even they have to, you know, like Anne Widdecombe, they have to turn their backs on the national anthem, you know, the EU national anthem. It's absolutely disgusting. Now, I'm just going to show you this, if I can get to the end here. And actually, it's been cancelled now, because it was shown. So, there was what they were planning to do was a strip club was going to host a golf tournament at a Trump resort in South Florida. A strip club. So Trump, yeah, go to Trump, because we all know that he likes to degrade women and to profit off the degrading of women. But here's the this is the flyer for it. You know, single payer $450, a foursome $1,000. Includes breakfast, lunch, cocktails, dinner, and special gift, plus caddy girl of your choice, right? And this was supposed to be for to raise money for a children's charity. You know, this is how sick they are. This is how sick they are. That they will create, you know, like basically selling young women, like, oh, caddy girl of your choice, not caddy woman, caddy girl of your choice. Yeah, come on. It is for a good cause. It's to help the children. What? The children who are suffering because you rich people have stolen all their money, because you forced them to live in poverty, and people are losing their minds. People are losing their homes. People are living under immense pressure and stress. So there's lots of children out there that are in need now because the parents have been made unfit. The parents have been rendered unfit precisely by the kind of consciousness that views women as toys, playthings, that thinks that they can show prejudice against black people, you know, they're inferior. I should have power as a white man. I have been robbed of my power over a black man, and this is wrong. As a man, I have been robbed of my power to abuse women with impunity. To abuse women and children with impunity. This is wrong. We need to get back to what's right. What's right? The far right. They are the far wrong. And we are living in dangerous, dangerous times. So, you know, and we all know Trump fully supports Brexit. Oh, he's delighted with Brexit. So what do we do about it? I tell you now, we are going to have to do in Iceland. We're not going to allow for this Tory fanfare of choosing which leader now. I mean, just the very fact that they're even contemplating Boris Johnson is absolutely ridiculous, and it is outrageous. Okay, just the very fact that he was still allowed to be president is outrageous and ridiculous after his self-confession was aired even before he got elected as president. And this is what we need now, is that for before anybody's allowed to become a prime minister or a president, even an MP, they need to pass certain health tests, mental health tests, to show that, yes, and compassion needs to be a big part of the assessment as to the levels of compassion that these people have. Because we have moved on. Just as, you know, the telephone, you can look at the telephone, can't you, from its first invention to the mobile phones that we have today, you know, the iPods and what have you, okay? Look at that. Well, our human consciousness has been developing too, okay? We are not the same consciousness of society that we were in Victorian Britain, that this lot wants to turn back to. This lot wants to remove human rights. Let's just take the technology. It is like they've travelled in time, this antiquated, dead dinosaur consciousness from the 1700s, 1800s, okay? It's somehow time travelled into the future, grabbed itself a load of technology, and now back to that 17th century thinking. Okay, we're all going to live back in Victorian Britain, you know, the 1800s. We'll go back there. The whole country will go back there. Yes, because that is where we belong with 21st century technology, and we'll just cancel out the terrible wars, the suffering that people went through in order for us to get that technology, and the social progressions that went alongside it. We'll discard them, we'll just steal the technology. Now this is theft. This is theft. It is a form of theft because they want to steal the technology away from the developed consciousness that's developed alongside it. As the technology has actually developed, so has humanity, so has our understanding, so has our consciousness. People are more humane. People no longer believe the ruling judgments that governed a society like Victorian Britain. You know, women are inferior, black people are inferior, in fact native people of any land are inferior, rich people are superior to poor people. Poor people, you know, in Britain, poor children were called urchins. Urchins. The term cockney is a derogatory term. You know, it means inferior breed, actually, genetically inferior people. That's what the term cockney means. So, you know, they want to go back to that. And they will do it. They will do it. If we allow them to, they will do it. You know, if they can get away with it, they will do it. We're talking about monsters here. Because, you know, he is a toddler mentality. a toddler mentality in an adult body is a monster. And when you give it huge power, that's dangerous. And he should, this is where the professional people of America have failed the citizens. All right, the citizens, they see him on reality TV, they believe all the lies, blah, blah, blah. But that's why we have professional people. That's why we have educated people who, allegedly educated, who will stand up and say, no, 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 we can't have him. Sorry, the Republican Party itself should have stood up and said, no, sorry, Mr. Trump, we've got this testimony of you, and we cannot condone that by allowing you to stand as president still, is basically condoning that kind of behaviour against women. It is an incitement. It's an incitement. And attacks against women are likely to increase as a result. People are dead because of the stuff that he support, and he said, the people who support him. So now we do need, like I say, in Britain, America, you're going to have to, he is going to have to go. You're going to have to just remove him. Nancy Pelosi, I don't know what, I'm sick to death of hearing people go, oh, what a wonderful woman she is. I've tried to understand why she's failed to impeach him. I hope that they just actually forget the impeachment, just go and arrest him for perjury for a start. Is a barefaced liar. The same as Boris Johnson, that, this, John Major's vowed to take him to court if he tries to shut down Parliament. I mean, how dare it? And that's exactly what President Trump did, isn't it? Over his wall, shut down the government. And look what the havoc it wreaked in America. Hundreds of thousands of people not getting paid over Christmas and the New Year. Okay? So, but should it come to that? Should it really come to that? Should we even have this Brexit? Because do we want a Brexit with a deal? Because let's face it, a Brexit with a deal, well, we've already got a deal with the EU. It's quite good, actually. We do very well out of it. I think we should stick with it. I think we should have a second referendum. I think we shouldn't be choosing a new leader for the Tory party. Okay, what we should be doing is preparing for a general election. Okay, to vote these criminals out of office, and then start bringing charges against them for war crimes, aiding and abetting terrorist actions that have took place in the Yemen, okay, and against the Yemen people, and crimes against humanity, against the British people, acts of economic terrorism. They've used economy as a tool to murder people, to oppress people, to drive people to ruin and destitution. And they've dumped this Brexit on the whole country on the strength of a pack of lies, stirring up xenophobia, inciting division and racial hatred. Even with threats of civil war thrown in there if they don't get their Brexit. Okay, and what for? What for? To protect the interests of a load of criminal bankers who've already robbed every person in this country, and people have died as a direct result. 120,000 dead, 120,000 dead, 120,000 dead. Think about it, people, and do an Iceland.